In medieval times, there existed a condition more feared than many bodily ailments, melancholia. It was not merely sadness, but a profound shadow that, it was believed, could consume the soul. For the reclusive monks in their monasteries, it was a sign of spiritual imbalance, an invisible weight born from estrangement from God. But behind the fear lay a fascination. Melancholia was also an indicator of a sensitive and profound soul. In the silent corridors, where time was measured by bells and prayers, the monks did not merely pray, they investigated. They believed that mind and body were mirrors. A sad heart sickened the body, and a sick body saddened the heart. Thus, healing would not come solely from penances, but from restoring a lost harmony. This view, which united the physical and the spiritual, was revolutionary. Suffering was not an end, but an opportunity to purify the soul. As melancholia spread beyond the monastery walls, the search for an effective remedy became urgent. It was in this landscape of faith and despair that the most mysterious herbal potions of the Middle Ages were born. Monasteries, more than temples, became the first laboratories of a sacred science. The cultivation of herbs was an act of faith, each plant a fragment of divine creation. The preparation of potions was a silent ritual, blending hope and natural wisdom. At the heart of this quest lay a question: how to heal the weight of the soul? The answer, for these men, lay in the union between the power of nature and the strength of faith. This is the story of how they transformed gardens into sacred pharmacies and created remedies that echo to this day. A journey that reveals not only the secrets of plants, but humanity's eternal search for balance in times of darkness. All medieval medicine, and that of the monks, was based on a theory inherited from the Greeks, that of the four humors. The human body was governed by four fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. When one became imbalanced, diseases arose. Melancholia, specifically, was the result of an excess of black bile, a cold and dry humor associated with earth, autumn, and deep introspection. For the monks, restoring this balance was not merely medicine, it was restoring divine order within the body. Amid a world ravaged by wars and plagues, monasteries became refuges of knowledge. Inside, copyists and herbalist monks devoted their lives to preserving Greek and Arabic manuscripts, studying rudimentary anatomy, and above all, experimenting with the herbs they cultivated. The walled gardens, called hortus conclusus, were microcosms of paradise. Each plant was chosen for a purpose: lavender for calm, rosemary for memory, sage for wisdom. Tending this garden was a form of prayer, a silent dialogue with the Creator. Before diving deeper into this ancestral secret of the monasteries, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications now. Here, every story is a new discovery, and only subscribers get the next chapters of this journey.
The science of herbs was not seen as rebellion, but as a continuation of God's work. The color of leaves, the scent of flowers, the shape of roots, everything was a sign, a divine code waiting to be deciphered. It was in this environment of faith and observation that the belief strengthened. The cure for melancholy, the weight of the soul, would come from the union of this natural wisdom and unwavering faith. The monks were not merely men of God. They were the first pharmacists of the soul, seeking in every leaf the answer to human suffering. And in their cauldrons, ancient knowledge mingled with the hope of a new tomorrow. In the monasteries, the healing of melancholy was a profoundly spiritual act. It was not about taking a simple remedy, but participating in a sacred ritual. It was believed that mental suffering was a form of demonic temptation, a shadow that could only be dispelled by purity. And that purity was found in the herbs, God's most direct creations. Thus, botany became an ally of faith. At sunrise, the monks went to the gardens, the harvest plants still covered in dew, reciting psalms to bless each leaf and flower. The herbs were then taken to the monastery's apothecaries, where they were mixed with spring water in copper cauldrons. As the infusion simmered slowly, silence was filled with Gregorian chants, creating an atmosphere where the sacred and the medicinal merged. It was said that the intention of the healing monk was as important as the ingredients. Without a pure heart, the potion would have no effect. Scent was also an essential part of healing. Monks believed that the perfume of herbs could purify the air, ward off evil thoughts, and prepare the spirit for prayer. Lavender, incense, and rosemary were burned during rituals in the primitive form of aromatherapy. Breathing that perfume was absorbing the divine essence of the plant. Healing through smell was a subtle but powerful tool that calmed the body and elevated the mind. It was in that instant, between the scent of herbs and the sound of bells, that many claimed to find peace, feeling God's presence not in words, but in the living essence of nature. Among the dusty manuscripts of monastic libraries, legends whispered of a supreme remedy, known as the elixir of the 9 sacred herbs. It was a legendary mixture, created not only to heal the body, but to restore the soul's peace. Each of the 9 herbs represented a divine virtue and a specific power, forming a spiritual shield against the darkness of melancholy. The exact recipe was a secret guarded with 7 keys, but the text suggests its components: chamomile for serenity, lavender for purity, rosemary for strength, and sage for wisdom. To them were added mint for the soul's freshness, thyme for courage, basil for peace, lemon balm for relief, and fennel for mental clarity. Together, they not only treated symptoms, but rebalanced the humors and strengthened the spirit. The preparation was a ritual of devotion. The herbs were dried in the shade, ground in a stone mortar, and mixed in secret proportions. As the infusion boiled in pure water, chants were intoned to consecrate the elixir. It was said it should be drunk at dusk, when the line between the physical and spiritual worlds grew thinner. The drink healed not just bodily fatigue, but washed the mind, as the monks described. Over time, this potion transcended the monastery walls, becoming more than a remedy. It was a liquid blessing, a symbol of the perfect union between the science of nature and the mystery of faith. The monks' knowledge was not merely practical. It was meticulously recorded. On leather parchments, they illustrated leaves, flowers, and roots with astonishing artistic delicacy.
These manuscripts, kept in secret libraries, were true treasures, blending formulas, prayers, and symbolism. Today, they reveal a fascinating portrait of the medieval mind. Some texts were written in Latin, but others used codes and ciphers, understood only by the most experienced monks. The recipes were poetic and imprecise by our standards. Doses were measured by the palm of the hand, and boiling time was counted while the chapel bell rings 3 times. Every detail had a spiritual purpose. It was believed that the healer's intention directly influenced the potion's power. The herbs, without the blessing of a pure heart, would not have the same curative effect. Many of these manuscripts disappeared, burned in wars, or hidden out of fear of the Inquisition, which viewed with deep suspicion any knowledge bordering on alchemy. One of the most persistent legends speaks of a book known as Liber Virdes, or the Green Book. Supposedly, it contained the original and complete formula for the elixir of the 9 herbs. Legend has it that whoever possessed it would have the power to heal the deepest sadness, but also to go mad if they used its wisdom without due humility.
The mystery of the Green Book still fuels the imagination of historians who search in surviving fragments for the key to the greatest secret of monastic medicine. The search for healing, however, did not always end in peace. In the monasteries, the line between remedy and poison was dangerously thin. Some herbs used in wrong doses caused unexpected and frightening effects, hallucinations, fevers, and delusions. Bolder monks, in their quest to touch the divine, experimented with mixtures that led them to altered states of consciousness. They believed they were conversing with angels or facing demons, when in truth they were on the brink of intoxication. The same elixir that calmed the mind could, in excess, plunge it into a nightmare. The boundary between healing and sorcery blurred, and many of these experimental monks were accused of practicing forbidden alchemy. The Church viewed with deep suspicion any attempt to manipulate the elements of creation, as it sounded like a challenge to God's power. Fear of heresy ensured that part of this knowledge was silenced forever. Books were burned, herbs were banned, and monks were severely punished.
Still, the fascination with nature's hidden power persisted. Even at the risk of being seen as heretics, the boldest monks continued their studies in secret, recording their formulas in symbols and metaphors to evade the Inquisition's eyes. For them, alchemy was not witchcraft, but the quest for the utmost purity of body and soul, the same ideal that drove monastic life. This dark side of medieval phytotherapy reveals that the pursuit of knowledge, even when guided by faith, always involved courage, risk, and sometimes sacrifice. Monastic medicine did not develop in isolation. During the Crusades and through trade routes with the East, a new universe of knowledge reached the monasteries. Works by Arab masters like Avicenna were translated into Latin, revealing secrets about distillation, the use of spices, and an energetic view of the body. Exotic herbs like cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg were incorporated into remedies. It was believed their hot energy could rekindle the cold humors of melancholy. This fusion of cultures, which the monks called donum orientale, the gift of the East, deeply enriched European pharmacopoeia. However, another source of wisdom, much closer and quieter, was equally crucial: women. Midwives, healers, and herbalists who lived on the margins of society were the true guardians of ancestral herbal knowledge. They knew, through oral tradition, which leaves lowered fevers and which flowers calmed the heart. It was by observing and conversing with these women that many monks learned secrets they later recorded in their precious books. This collaboration, however, was dangerous. Women's wisdom, especially outside convents, was often associated with witchcraft by the Church. Still, the exchange of knowledge happened in the shadows. Healers brought rare herbs to monasteries in exchange for protection or food. Many were persecuted, but their legacy survived, intertwined with the very history of monastic medicine. Together, monks and healers shaped Europe's phytotherapeutic knowledge. In every tea prepared in the monasteries, there was the strength of two traditions: the erudite faith of the monks and the intuitive ancestral wisdom of women. Over the centuries, the secret of the elixir of the 9 herbs faded away. Monasteries were sacked, libraries burned, and many manuscripts destroyed. Legend has it that the last copy of the Liber Virtus was hidden in a monastery in the Alps and never found. The disappearance of the original formula only heightened its mystery, turning the elixir into a symbol of lost wisdom. Today, historians and botanists try to recreate the potion based on fragments of texts. None, however, has managed to reproduce the exact effect described in the accounts. Perhaps because the secret lay not only in the plants, but in the intention, the ritual, and the faith of those who prepared them. As the monks themselves said, the power of the remedy was not in the mixture, but in the purity of those who believed in its healing. Despite the lost secrets, the legacy of the monastic herbalists lives on. Many of the herbs they cultivated, like chamomile, lavender, and sage, are now validated by science and used in modern medicine.
What was once a spiritual practice is now also pharmacology. The quest for balance between body and mind, so central to monastic life, became the foundation of psychology and integrative therapies. In a fast-paced, anxious world, the story of the ancient elixir reminds us of something essential. Sometimes the healing we seek is not in a miraculous potion, but in silence, connection with nature, and the rediscovery of the inner harmony the monks so valued. If this journey through the mystery of herbs and the mind has held you until here, subscribe now. That way you won't miss any new stories about symbols, spirituality, and secrets that span centuries. Join our community of knowledge seekers.